there, and welcome back to Build with the Boys. We now have issue 14 of Hachette's Build the Titanic. In this one, we will be building the officers' quarters. Some more decking. With regard to decking, people saying glue your decking down, don't glue your decking down. It can't hurt. I mean, it can't hurt if you want to apply some glue to your decking. It really can't hurt. It can only help. There's no harm in having some extra bond. I don't think it's overly necessary because the amount of stuff that's going to pin it down, the likelihood of it peeling up and coming away is pretty slim. But it can't hurt. It can only help. So I mean, if that makes you comfortable, then you go ahead and do it. You know, there's no right or wrong here. It's your model. Do it your way. We're building the officers' quarter here, which does give us our first proper piece of superstructure. We're adding some the deck into it, and we're also adding some of the elements to it as well. This will eventually be where one of our funnels will mount, so you can kind of see the gap and the hole of where the funnel's going to sit into and then ultimately be screwed to. And this will be quite a lovely piece. I might try and test fit the funnel at the end, just so we got an idea of what this is going to look like, because I don't think it's the right funnel to go with this one. Not sure. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. It helps us massively. It's very much appreciated. It doesn't cost you a penny, but it helps us massively. It's very much appreciated. At the end of this one, those that stick around with the history lesson, we are going to be talking about one of the myths of the Titanic where it's possible to get so drunk, that the freezing cold waters of the Atlantic wouldn't have killed you on the night of the sinking. It sounds like nonsense. It's because it is, but we'll discuss why it is and where that rumour comes from at the end. So anyway, let's get this one open. Let's get into this. Let's get this built. So here are the parts that we get with issue 14. So we get the officers' quarters, which is raw. When we get it, we have our decking for it, and we have the elements that are going to go on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the decking. Do this off camera because it has to be precise. So I mean, this is just going to fit over there like so. I mean, it's a fairly comfortable fit, so you can't really mess this up as long as you kind of take your time. And again, as I said, if you want to apply some additional adhesive to this just to hold it to, it can't hurt. It can't hurt, it can only help. So do what makes you comfortable. So I'm going to do that, we'll get that done, and then we'll move on to the elements. Here's our decking applied. Really rather lovely. So now we're going to take our pieces out of here, and we're going to attach the various pieces to the top of the structure. Now, I don't believe any of these are advised as glued to fit, and having our earlier experiences, again, I'd wait. Because what you don't want them doing is, and by the way, we've changed that now to a different colour, and yours is you know, super glued to the deck, and you've got to wrench it out. So I'm just erring on the side of caution. I'm not gluing anything unless I think it's absolutely necessary. And then at the end, when this boat is built completely, we'll seal it all down. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the cowled vent, which is 14B, flip this one around, and it's going to pop it in just here. There we go. So that's going to go in there. I could definitely use glue in, but again, I would err on the side of caution. It's going to go in so it stays for now. But yeah, I'm just not, unless it's completely loose, I'm not gluing anything at this stage. The next piece we're going to use is vent D, which is this piece here. And we're going to pop that in just here. Now again, there are different sized lugs, so there's only one way around this will go. There we go. So that pops in there, and that's how that will look. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to take the swan neck vent A, which is this piece here. And now this sits slightly, ever so slightly over the, there we go, where the vent will go. It goes this way round. That fits in like so. And then we have, next part we are putting is vent C, which is this one here. And this goes right toward the back. So that'll be going in there like so. And then I think we've got one more piece, and that will complete this. Two more, sorry. And we have a very, very, very little. I might need to get tweezers for this one. We have a tiny little air intake, which is going to pop in there. Can we get that in with my massive sausagey fingers? I'll have to do that one off camera. I'll do that one off camera, we'll have a look at that one at the end. And that's all we're going to do. So this one here, this vent B, we're not using that one in this stage. Let me pop this one in off camera because my old eyes are never going to allow me to do it on film. We'll take a look at it. That one's in now. It will sit right down so it doesn't protrude from the deck. But that's, as our officers' quarters, complete for now. I mean, again, you can see all the elements that are also going to be added to this, but everything from stage 14 is now done. It's nice and simple. But again, just be cautious with the glue, because if they're saying to us, I'm changing this now, we're changing this now, don't put yourself in a position where you've got to rip these things off the deck or be forced to paint if you don't want to paint. So I would just err on the side of caution with glue. Anyway, let's have a chat. Just so I'd like to spoil you lucky people. This is how it will eventually look. So you can see I've threaded the wire through there. And this is where that cover will eventually go. It's just not going on yet, so it's loosely fit. So none of this is attached. I mean, this is just very loosely put in there. But that is what our funnels will look like. Again, there's going to be parts that are going to cover all this, which I would imagine are going to come down here. But that gives you an idea. That gives you an idea where we're going to be. Now let's have a chat. Yeah, that's stage 14 complete, and now 10% of the overall build complete as well. So we are getting there, slowly but surely. And we have our first really rather lovely part of superstructure done. If you're just staying around for the build instructions, thank you for stopping by. Please give us a like and remember to subscribe so you can see our whole build and every other thing else we've got coming up on the channel. We have a lot of builds on the go at the moment. We've got something for everyone, from the Disney Doll's House to the Iron Man to the Ecto 1 to the Root Mouse to Bus. We do a lot. So yeah, hit the subscribe button and come and check out some of the other things we do as well. If you're sticking around for your history lesson, we're going to talk about one of those weird kind of exaggerated stories of the Titanic. And it involves a chef called Charles Joughin, cook, master baker. I said baker, aboard the Titanic. Now, the myth is that he got drunk, and so drunk that his body was able to withstand the cold depths of the Atlantic. That's not what happened. But you can see where it comes from. So here's a picture of the man, and we'll go into what actually happened. So that's Charles. On the night the Titanic hit the iceberg, he was working. So he was baking, starting to bake for the day. They went through a lot of stuff on the Titanic. So he'd started his shift. And he was aware of what had happened. And when he saw that the lifeboats were being readied, he acted professionally, which goes against the kind of Hollywood portrayal of him. He appears in a lot of films as kind of almost the comic relief of the guy getting drunk. And we'll come to why that is. But he did what he was supposed to do. So in the event that this happens, lifeboats aren't just manned, lifeboats are readied. They don't just throw them over the side and off you go, because who knows how long you'd be in the water for. Lifeboats are loaded with things. Fresh drinking water is put onto lifeboats, along with blankets and food. So that's what he did. He made his way to the lifeboats with bread and biscuits for our American viewers, cookies. So they loaded the lifeboats with bread and biscuits. It took multiple trips to do this, and he sort of kept his calm. He could see the chaos and he kept his calm, and he had down and load the boats, and after he'd actually loaded all the boats with food, he did then retire to his cabin, knowing full well that the likelihood of him getting off the boat was pretty slim. And he had a drink, peppermint schnapps to be exact, and I don't think you can blame him for that, can you? I mean, survival's looking bleak at this point. So he had a drink. He had a big drink. But he didn't, contrary to popular belief, continue drinking and get drunk. He had a very large drink, but he didn't get drunk. But he was on the booze, he was on the liquor. He then left his cabin and went, and he assisted with loaded lifeboats. So it was lifeboat 10 There were a lot of women in it, and it hadn't set sail yet. For whatever reason, whether there was the boat lurching, the women got spooked and got out and believed they were safer on the Titanic than the lifeboat. This created a problem. Now, Charles was originally going to be captain in one of these lifeboats. That didn't happen because two sailors got into it and they were going to be doing it. So what he actually did was he forcefully put women in the boat. So he was grabbing women and children on command to throw them in the boat. They were literally throwing these women in the boat. Like, if you're not going to get there voluntarily, we will throw you in it. And that's what he did. So he saved those women's lives because they weren't going to save their own. They were scared of the boat for whatever reason. But this is Charles' testimony. That's what he said he did. He forcefully grabbed women and put them in boats. After that, he again he watched the final boat take off and thought, okay, well, now I'm kind of doomed. And he went and got water. Now, did he get water or did he get more booze? I don't know. Charles claims he went and got water. He thought, you know, I need a drink. I need to get ready for what I'm about to do. And he drank his water and he went to the lower deck and started hoiking deck chairs, wooden deck chairs overboard, with the intention of he being able to use them as flotation devices and potentially anybody else. And he hoiked a lot of these overboard. I think it was about 40 he threw over the side. These are heavy bloody chairs as well. These are big old, big old deck chairs. But he hoiked them over the side. And then looking at it, they didn't look that buoyant. And he kind of rethought his plan. And did what a lot of the others did and started heading up the poop deck to the rear of the boat, to the stern. And he was at the stern when the boat snapped and then when it made its full vertical. So he said he remembers hearing the boat break. He remembers hearing the crack and being terrified. And he ran up and he was on the back of the boat when it went down. So if you've seen the 97 Titanic, where Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet ride the boat down to the bottom, that comes from Charles's testimony of what he did. He was on the starboard side of the boat. He climbed over the railing, so he was on the outside of the boat as it went down. And he says he rode the stern down like an elevator, straight down as it sank. So he is the last survivor to leave the Titanic. Now, again, some of the Titanic, there's this belief that if you weren't so for X amount of distance from the boat, you were dragged down by the suction. That's not true, because of the way the boat went down. So the way the boat went down is it's broken the surface of the water and it's going down. So it doesn't create a vortex. That's nonsense. I mean, it has to hit from height with impact. It can't already be in the water. So for instance, if a whale leaves the water and slams in, it creates the pull. Whereas this boat is already in the water and it's just sinking down. So there's a very small pull, but certainly not enough to drag you under the water. That doesn't happen. And he was wearing his life jacket as well. And he swore by the life jacket. So they're great. They were lined with cork. And he said that when he actually got to the water, his life jacket was so buoyant, his hair didn't even get wet. He says when he actually landed in the water, his hair didn't get wet. And this is where things get a bit sketchy. Because the nicest way I can say it, Charles didn't let anything as trivial as the truth get in the way of a good tale. So Charles hits the water, and he claims that he treaded water until sunset. Now, if that was true, it means Charles was in the water for about 3 hours, 20 minutes. There's literally no way that's possible. It's not humanly possible for Charles to have been in the water for 3 hours, 20 minutes. In that temperature, if you went an hour and 20 minutes, it was remarkable. That was like a 1 in a million shot. So 3 hours, 20 minutes? No, that's superhuman. There's literally no way anybody could have done that and survived. So it never happened. That's just the way it is. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean Charles was lying, but it means that his recollection of the events might have been different. And I would imagine 2 minutes in that water probably feels like half an hour. So maybe that's where it came from. But anyway, Charles found his way to Collapsible B. And claims that they wouldn't let him on it. but he was able to hold on to the side. So a lot of his body was out of the water. His feet were still in the water though, but he never fully got on top of it. He then says it wasn't until another lifeboat happened across him that pulled him on board that one, and then he ended up on the Carpathia. Now again, he wasn't one of the, when they went back and they pulled a few from the water, he wasn't one of those. So the likelihood of him being 3 hours in the water, pretty slim. But it's completely believable he did over an hour, because he wasn't fully submerged. His head hadn't gone under, his chest hadn't gone under. He was above waist, his legs were in the water. So it is plausible that he could have done it. And he was, I mean, he was in his 30s, he was physically fit. So it's not unbelievable this could have happened. But the rumour is that it was because he was drunk. And where that comes from is he says he didn't really feel the cold. He said the booze sort of blocked the cold out. And I think we can all relate to that. I think we've all walked home from the pub, wearing next to nothing and not even realised how cold it was. And ultimately, that doesn't mean that you're not getting cold, because we've all heard stories of people that have died of hypothermia because they've fallen asleep in a doorway or somewhere, they've been drinking too much, missed their cab, and froze to death. It happens, it's sad, but it does. But no, booze does not make you impervious to the effects of hypothermia. But Charles did like to embellish stories, and not in a nasty way. He wasn't, his lies weren't, we all know that guy where if you've been to Tenerife, he's been to 11 Tenerife. He wasn't saying that he did 3 hours as some sort of macho thing. I think it was just, it was a story, and he used to tell the stories to his kids, and I think he was suffering from PTSD, but before it was recognised as a thing. But whenever he'd ask about it, he'd always make a joke of the Titanic, like when they'd say to him, well, how did you know what it hit? He said, well, I knew it was an iceberg because I saw a polar bear on it and it waved at me. And then when his granddaughter would ask him how cold was the water, he'd say, I was swimming around with polar bears, that's how cold it was. And he liked to, he liked to put some fable to it. But he survived. So he survived. He gave testimony. Now in his testimony, he doesn't say he was in the water for 3 hours. People he told the story to, it varied from 2 hours to 3 hours to 3.5 hours to an hour. So, but he wasn't. I mean, it's a physical impossibility. It doesn't matter how much you drank. 3 hours in that water, you'd be beyond dead. You'd be an icicle. But that's where that myth comes from. So if you ever hear anyone say, "Oh yeah, this guy got really," no, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. He retired from being a cook and chef on boats. Don't blame him. And he was renowned for his pastries. He studied at patisseries in France, and he was renowned for his eclairs. His chocolate eclairs were a really big deal. And he lived in New Jersey until 1956, where he sadly died. But before he died, he did give interview for the book A Night to Remember, which went on to become the film A Night to Remember. And again, he features fairly prominently in that as the comic relief, the drunk cook staggering about the boat. But that's not true. He did a lot for the people on board the Titanic. He made sure those boats were stocked with food. He forcefully got women onto those boats. And he also threw buoyant aids over the side in the hopes of helping people. So it's wrong to say he was just some bumbling drunk, because he wasn't. He was one of the Titanic's unsung heroes, and God bless him for it. And that is all for this issue. We will be back next time, where we'll be doing more substance. We're fitting the part of the keel this time, and doing a bit more metal work. So we will be up very shortly with that one. In a world where you can be anything at all, just be nice. I will see you next time, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.